All right, Elliot, we're back. Bet the birds.
We're back.
Playoff edition. I'm
Playoff
gonna
time.
start it off. I'm putting on the
I love
hat.
it. I love it.
All
It's how
right.
you know it's time. It's
Here we
time right
go.
now.
I
There
got
you
the
go.
glasses on. So you're gonna talk to me like a diehard Eagles fan, right? Eagles are plus 700 right now to win the Super Bowl. All right.
Yeah.
I am thinking the Christmas bonus is going on the Eagles to win right now. I'm feeling that confident. I am a crazy Philly fan. Tell me why the Eagles are not going to win the Super Bowl, because I already know all the reasons why.
Tell you why they're not, man. I feel bad doing that with you. You look so nice with your hat and your glasses, but I think that there's one reason the Eagles might not win the Super Bowl, and I think that is the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions, it's like the Eagles and them playing each other are so similar. Now, I think the Eagles have a better roster. I think they have a better defense. I actually think their skill players are better. But when you watch the Detroit Lions, it would be foolish not to admit they have something special going on there. You
Dracula.
watch them, it feels like it is their year. Now, the good news is it's not actually given to them. They have to go out and they have to earn it. And to do that, they're going to have to beat the Eagles, because I think this season is headed towards a collision between Detroit and Philadelphia. But yeah, I think the biggest roadblock to the Eagles winning the Super Bowl is the Detroit Lions. I think they'll beat the teams in the AFC if they get to the Super Bowl, and I think they will get to the Super Bowl. But the Lions are the only thing that scares me. I'm not afraid of the Eagles beating themselves. I'm not afraid of a dumb mistake costing this team. They are a well-oiled machine right now. We saw that with how the backup quarterbacks played. But my fear would just be, it certainly feels like the Lions have something special going on this year.
Dracula, man, you can't kill those Detroit Lions no matter how many injuries they have. All right, let's talk some good stuff. Jalen Hurts, as of 25 minutes ago, still in concussion protocol. Could be a little bit of rust for Jalen Hurts. Tell me, what should we think, and should we expect Hurts to have a little rust coming back here versus the Packers?
So I'm not concerned about Jalen Hurts. Just being around the team over the past week, I don't really sense any worry from them. Now, until he's out of protocol, you never know. You can't say 100%. But I expect Jalen to be practicing on Wednesday when I'm down there at the Novica. I'd be very surprised if he was not. I would also be stunned if he doesn't play Sunday against the Packers. So I believe Jalen will be out on the field. The question is, what version of Jalen will you get? And I think the concern from some is he will have taken like 12 snaps in a calendar month when you consider he missed most of Washington. He missed the last two games, and obviously the week between last week and Green Bay. So I understand the concern about rust. But I have seen Jalen in a lot of big games. He hasn't won them all. He's lost some playoff games. He's lost some regular season games. But he generally brings it. Like, other than Tampa, there's very few times Jalen doesn't show up or plays really poorly. So could he come out a little slow? Sure, it's possible. They've come out slow all year. So
yeah, they've been slow in every first quarter. That could be the thing.
It's not like that would be uncharacteristic for him. But I think you're going to get a good performance out of Jalen on Sunday. I would be very surprised if after this layoff, he has time to heal, to rest up. He'll be with the team practicing. I think you're going to get a really good Jalen performance.
All right, so paint me the picture and try to include for me maybe, some props, over or under. You can include Packers members, Eagles players for this game versus the Packers. The spread right now is Eagles -4 on the BetParks app. Paint me the scene. What happens here? Eagles Packers at the link on Sunday.
I hate to sound like a broken record, but we've been doing it all year. Maybe sprinkle something on Saquon. You look back to that week 1 game and what he did against the Packers. He turned that game around in Brazil. He was the reason they won that game. The special plays he made, but it wasn't just on the ground. Remember, Saquon made big games in the passing game that week. So if I'm looking at different props I like this week, the Saquon over on total yards I think is very appealing, but I would also look at his receiving yards. The Packers don't really have great linebackers. Their defense as a whole puts up good numbers. but I think individually they don't really have the talent to match up with the talent the Eagles have. And you saw that in week one, A.J. Brown making big plays, and we all saw what Saquon did. So I like Saquon in this game. He rested up last week. I know he's going for that all-time record, the 24-15 yards that Terrell Davis got. So he will come out motivated. The whole reason you didn't play him is to use him. I think they're going to use him. I would go over on the Saquon total yards and specifically the receiving yards.
I like that. I like that a lot, Elliot. But are you going to bet the Birds? The spread 4. Are you betting the Birds versus the Packers?
Yeah, I'm betting the Birds this week. I think they're going to win the game. I look at the Packers as a
4
team.
4 points is nothing.
4 points. I think they'll win by more than 4 points. I do. I mean, the Packers are good at keeping things close for sure. But the Eagles, I think, are just a better team than the Packers. You could argue the rosters. I think the Packers have good receivers. Obviously, they're missing Christian Watson. On defense, they have Gary. They have McKinney. Like, they have guys. But the totality of Green Bay does not match up, in my opinion, with what the Eagles are. The Eagles have a better offense, a better defense, a better quarterback, and a better head coach. So 4 points is not scaring me away from Green Bay. I think the Eagles, the link is going to be crazy. I sense a specialness with this team that I have not sensed since 2022. So obviously last year the playoffs didn't go great. We all remember that. This feels so much like 2022 to me. I would be pretty surprised, if not stunned, if the Eagles lost to the Packers. So I will definitely take those 4 points.
Well, we'll just go back then to my first question, the way you're talking right now. Something special going on with this team. You just said it. Eagles are plus 700 in the pecking order of favorites to win the Super Bowl. They're down there. They're at a good price, Elliot.
Yeah.
I mean, should we be loading up on the Eagles right now before the playoffs get started on the BetParks app?
Yeah, I think plus 700's a steal for the Eagles. I mean, let's just compare
7
them
to 1. 7 to 1 odds.
7 to 1. Let's compare them to other teams that are in the conversation. The Detroit Lions are the heavy favorite, but you're only getting them at what? Plus 350. You get way better odds with the Eagles. Now, why are the Lions favorite? Because of home field advantage. The Eagles have the best road record in the NFL since 2021. So they are comfortable going on the road. They are comfortable playing against a team that is tough. The Eagles themselves are tough. They're comfortable playing against a team that goes for it on 4th down. You saw the Vikings get uncomfortable with how the Lions were doing things. The Eagles, that's their wheelhouse. They live on going for it on 4th down. Right. So I like their matchup against the Lions. But what they also are is healthy. Yes, I would have played Saquon to go for the record, but they didn't. And as a result, they are now healthier than the Lions. They're better than the Vikings. They're better than the Packers. You just look at the other teams in the NFC. They're better than those teams. And if it does get down to the Super Bowl, Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts are not losing their second attempt at winning a ring. I just don't see that happening. So plus 700, I think that's a really good deal.
I like it, Elliot. I like it. All right. So talk to me now. How much does the week 1 matchup in a absolute abomination of a football field in Brazil?
Yeah, good point.
How much does that game mean to this game? They say it all the time. The teams find their identity throughout the season, and so much is different from week 1 to week 10 and week 10 to week 18. Talk to me about the game in Brazil. You were there, and what it means to this matchup.
So Nick Sirianni talked about it, and I thought he put it in a good way. Like, there are staples of this Eagles team that they are going to use no matter who they're playing, essentially. Like, things they're good at, things Saquon likes to do, things Jalen likes, routes AJ likes, how they like to get Goddard the ball. So those are staples that every team the Eagles play have to face. And the Packers have already faced that. So the Eagles have a look and an idea of how the Packers are going to play them. But the counter to that is, to your point, they do change. If you look at Jalen Hurts versus the Packers, he had 4 turnover-worthy plays in that game. Since the bye week, he had 5 in like 11 games. And those 4 turnover-worthy plays in week 1 are 25% of his turnover-worthy plays for the entire year. So the Packers are facing a different quarterback than they did in week 1. So there are changes since week 1 for sure, but ultimately the biggest change is Jalen Hurts is playing way better than he did to start the season, and I don't know how the Packers account for that.
For me, when it comes to betting on these games, sometimes for me, it is just as simple as going with the quarterback that you like more. Jalen Hurts is, like you said, a different quarterback than he was in week 1. And I think that's going to work against the Packers. Jordan Love, on the other hand, is coming in banged up. has had a really up and down year. You said it. I heard you on the radio. He takes a lot of risks putting the ball in harm's way.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to paint the picture here. I think Eagles win big, and let's bet on maybe that defensive touchdown. That's something to think about. Before I get you out of here, injuries to the Packers.
Yeah.
Huge one for them with Christian Watkins. Another one that I think is worthy to kind of think about when it comes to betting is Jair Alexander being down for them. That's a huge loss. That guy's a baller. How does that, maybe play into maybe Devontae Smith and AJ Brown having a big game against the Packers?
So the Packers corners without Jair Alexander are no good. They just don't have good cornerbacks without him out there. So from a passing perspective, yeah, I think AJ and Devontae can dominate those matchups. Now, they have Xavier McKinney, who I'm sure will shadow over to AJ's side if I had to guess how they're going to play it. So Jalen's going to have to be smart with realizing pre-snap where McKinney is, where he's going, where he thinks he's going, and how to handle that. But in terms of one-on-one matchups, AJ and Devontae have a major advantage against these Packers corners. So I like Saquon in this game. I think they're going to come out and run it. But on the passing attempts they do have, Jalen threw for over 300 yards in week 1, if I'm not mistaken. Like, they do throw the ball. They had success throwing the ball against the Packers. I expect them to try that as well. So you're absolutely right. As much as there's talk about Christian Watson being out, and it does matter for sure. Like, he is a big loss for their receiving core. Alexander might be a bigger loss because they just don't have anybody that can line up against Devontae or AJ and win that matchup.
One more here. So the Packers, one thing that they are really good at, running the football. They averaged 7.8 yards per carry against the Eagles in the season opener. 7.8 yards a carry. They were gashing them. We were talking trash on whether or not this defense was any good, if you remember back in week 1. What's the key for the Eagles defensive line in stopping the bowling ball, the human bowling ball that is Josh Jacobs?
So I think the answer here is Nolan Smith. Week 1, Nolan Smith wasn't playing as much. Bryce Huff was out there, and Nolan Smith wasn't the player that he is now. If you talk about the Eagles defensive line versus the Packers offensive line, the biggest change to me is Nolan Smith. So I look at Nolan in this game and I say he's really good against the run. He's good at setting the edge. And the Eagles, since Nolan Smith has improved, have been so much better against the run. I can't think of any teams this year off the top of my head that have run all over them or they've been the reason why the Eagles have lost. So against the Packers with Josh Jacobs in that running game, I think Nolan Smith is a big-time player here. A lot of pressure on him to make sure, the Packers have good tackles. So if he can get pressure on them, Jordan Love will make mistakes. Yeah. But I think the key for Nolan Smith will be the running game against Josh Jacobs. I think he's a major benefit this time around that they didn't have in week 1.
All right, 2 more things. So the weather, I heard something about maybe more snow at the end of the week. You're like the weather man. You want the dome. It would be nice to have the dome.
Amen.
Let me ask you, though, did you hear anything about the weather?
So as of now, it doesn't look like it's going to snow. It looks like maybe on Saturday there'll be some snow. We'll see if that holds over till Sunday. But it's going to be cold for sure. Now, the Packers, obviously living in Green Bay, they're used to the cold. They play in the cold. I don't know how much of an advantage there is. But it's going to be playoff weather. It's going to be cold. It's going to be windy. The sun's going to be down, like probably by the time kickoff gets here. So this is the primetime game of the weekend. I don't care if other ones are on Sunday night or Monday night. 4:30 Sunday, Eagles, Packers. This is the highlight of the week. So it is going to feel like football weather out there. It's going to feel like playoff weather. And I can't wait.
I cannot wait either. It's almost as good as a snow day,
Feels
And
like
speaking of which, last question, I'm getting you out of here. Snow day. Yes. Tell us, where did you grow up, right? For snow days and stuff, right? To tell the listeners who don't know, right?
Yeah.
And what's the best part about a snow day and best sledding hill? I need all 3, Elliot. Go.
All right. Well, so I grew up in Philly. So I remember the blizzard of 96. Like I remember being there for that. I remember coming outside the apartment we lived in at the time and like crawling on top of the snow because it was so thick. Like, So that is like the #1 snow day story for me. Now that I'm older, I was out there shoveling. It's not as fun when you're older.
Right. That was the #1 snow day. What's the best part about the snow days, though?
Well, I mean, it was obviously not going to school. Like we all remember. I know. Maniac remembers. Like listening to the radio to see if you were off. I feel like they were pretty lame with letting us off back in the day. I feel like there
They
should have
were.
been
They
more
let you
time.
know at like 3 a.m.
It was
sometimes.
the worst, yes. But still, that feeling of waking up, seeing snow, getting off for a school day, it was amazing. So yeah, sledding for sure. I mean, there was the Water Tower Hill and Chestnut Hill that I used to go down. It was like 3, so it looks way bigger, or I should say, it looks smaller now than it did when I was younger. I remember it being way steeper. But no, I mean, you gotta love snow days, man.
The Water Tower Hill in Chestnut Hill, Elliot.
Yeah,
I
come
will have
on.
to check it out. I love it.
Yes.
We'll be doing this all week. I got
Yes,
to come
sir.
up for some more material after that one. That was a good one, Elliot. Thanks for doing a great job for us. Bet Parks, Elliot Shore Parks, Bet the Birds, over and out. We'll talk to you again later this week, Elliot. Thank you.
Sounds good. Talk to you later, man.